Okay, so can I share something with you? I used to be really bad about having relationships when it came to other women. Yes, me. Over time, I only had one best friend. I ended up opening myself up to having another best friend. But even then, I battled with a lot of insecurities. I battled with myself a lot, especially after having a child. So it was like I didn't know myself before I had a child, and I really didn't know myself after having a child because now I was just a single mom. I can honestly say that I still am working on a lot of my insecurities. And a lot of those insecurities held me back from developing relationships with people and learning the different types of relationships that we have with people. So for me, a lot of my relationships in the past, when it came to befriending other women, were very hurtful. And not just them hurting me, but me hurting them. I believe that at the time, I allowed my insecurities to take full control of how I operated in a relationship. So I was the gossiper. I had to make sure everybody knew what was going on because that's how I got friends with them. I had to make sure I knew what was going on because then I would go and snitch or tell on somebody else, and that's just how I worked. And then there were instances where I didn't work like that, but because I did it in the past, it was seen as if she did it before, she probably is doing it again. So even when I tried to grow, I was still stuck with that aim of the gossiper. So over time, I began to have an understanding of relationships in general. How everybody is not for every season. And then everybody is not to be with you for the rest of your life. There are business relationships that you will have. There are intimate relationships that you will have. There are relationships where you walk with somebody on a journey and you probably will walk with them for the rest of your life on your journey. There are some people who you won't. I've had friendships when I was in high school that didn't always carry over to when I went to college. I have relationships in college that didn't carry over to where I'm at right now. And I believe that people have to understand when you're holding on to a relationship and you're feeling as if the person is either cutting you off or they're doing whatever, I think that's the time to examine, are you in a new place? Are you at a new level? And if you are and they're not there, maybe that might be the reason why they're not communicating with you like you did back in the day. Maybe we are holding on to relationships that are meant to be done with because you're not growing from that relationship anymore. I know for me, a lot of my relationships I've learned were for a season. They were for a season, and I couldn't have an expectation of what they needed to give me or how they needed to make sure they picked up the phone when I called, or just these expectations that we have on these relationships. And we unknowingly cause and force relationships into a new season, and then you have a big old falling out or something happens that hurts you, and probably what was supposed to be left in the past you brought into your future. And now you have this wound that you have to heal. And along with that comes you stopping yourself from building relationships with other people. I can honestly say that when I stopped being scared and having anxiety, I started to allow myself to connect with other women. And I found myself doing something like this, right? If my relationship and connection with them was for business purposes and they were meant to be in the business column, right? Or the whatever you want to do when you create this as I'm explaining it to you. If I had a relationship with them when it came to us talking about maybe even being a single mother, I knew that I could go to them and talk about that time in my life, or I can get some advice from them. Then I have a friend who I can talk to when it just comes to me, the woman, the frustrated woman, the mad woman, just things that I want as a woman. I have a friend that I can talk to about that. And then I might have a friend that I can hang out with, Like when I call them up and hit them up, I know that they have places that we can go and chill at. And so each of those women, they hold a special and dear part of my life, but it might be one that literally walks through with me on my journey. And that's okay. And so I wanted to give an example of that because it may look like that for you. Maybe you've been hurt in the past by other women, other friendships that you've had, that you've encountered. Maybe you did some of the hurting, and then maybe they did some of it too. But the point is that as we get older, you have to figure out when to let go of certain relationships. You have to figure out where the person stands when it comes to you, so that you won't force them into a season that they're not supposed to be in. I just want to challenge you to examine your relationships as you are just now stepping into 2020. What do those relationships look like? How do you develop them? How do you keep the business one from not getting too personal because it doesn't need to go that way? I started understanding what it meant to have healthy relationships. So what about you? What is it that you are having a hard time with when it comes to your dynamics of your relationship? Let me know at the bottom, comment. But more importantly, make sure you subscribe because I will be dropping some daily videos for you. And I'm so excited to just talk to you on this journey.